Our party just wrapped up the Hythenos Estate, and we're going to talk about what happened today. So let's dig in. Welcome back, everyone. So our party in this last session, they went through the Hythenos Estate, and they had a really good time. It was a lot of fun, and we're going to talk about what happened. But before we do so, let's talk about a few things. First off, what went well? The action-oriented Dybbuk Fight. I cannot recommend this method enough. This is from Matthew Colville's video, Action-Oriented Monsters, and changing things up and having a plan going into the battle. It's very simplified, having reactions and bonus actions and those types of things that are different from what's actually in the book. I cannot recommend this enough. When the Dybbuk started calling the corpses of the bodies that my party had found throughout the estate and making them arise and come forward, they freaked. It went really well, and it made the fight so much more fun. Obviously, you don't need to do this in every single battle that you have, but when it's a bigger one, like this is kind of like a semi-main boss, I cannot recommend this enough. It went really well, my party had a good time, and they freaked when he used his first action-oriented attack. What could have been better? So this is just simply the fact that Chozen wasn't able to make it our player this time around, and it took me a little bit before I realized that I needed to tone down some of the encounters. Otherwise, I was going to have a TPK on my hands. But that's just, adjusting things on the fly. It went okay, but I probably should have realized it a little bit sooner. Alright, so let's talk about what actually happened during our session. And to do that, I think it's appropriate we pull open the map for the Hythenos Estate. My party had just arrived at the Hythenos Estate at the end of the previous session. First things first, what they wanted to do is scope out the entire exterior of the estate. So they spent some time going around and making some checks to see what they could see. We added that there was some windows in this room, the Relic Room. It made sense to me that there were, so they spotted one window here that was cracked and open. They could probably squeeze through if they were super small, and then another one in the kitchen here they could break through that had been cracked. So they discussed for a little while, talked amongst themselves, and they decided that Iris was going to go through the kitchen and Jimmy was going to go through the window over here, and they left Question in a bush because she is terrified to do anything. Iris made her way back over to this window, climbed through the window, and took a couple points of damage as she was cut on her way through, just based on the check that she made, the roll that she made to get in. She found a dead body in here, and that was pretty much it. Amongst, everything was kind of dusty and kind of scattered. There's no fire in the hearth. So she checked the body, and then she made her way to the door here, where she kind of peeked in, and she put her goggles of night on because there's no light. As she looked in here, we cut over to Jimmy, who walked this way, turned himself into a cat, and made his way through the window. So he spent a few minutes in here, trying to identify things. He made a whole bunch of checks and rolls, trying to figure out what was going on, and then just decided he was going to wait for the others to come in. So Iris walks in the front door, nothing in here, opens the door for Dmitri. Dmitri and Iris walk in and go into the study, and they find a whole bunch of things in here. Books, they find a body, they find notes, all kinds of things. So Iris pockets a few of them, and they continue their way down, trying to find Jimmy. So Dmitri had seen Jimmy come through the window over here, and she's like, well, let's just make a right at this first door and see if we can find him. He's not in here. So they head back out and down this hallway. And so the description for this hallway is they need to make a wisdom save. Otherwise, they find themselves back at the start. I think this time Dmitri and Iris both made their saves. No big deal. They come down and they get into the room where they find Jimmy. They talk amongst themselves for a little bit. Jimmy kind of describes what he's found in here, the different items that are in here, the paintings, the murals, all that kind of stuff. He describes what's going on, and he's identified these goggles over here and knows that they aren't cursed based on the rolls that he made and whatnot. So he decides he's gonna try with his mage hand to grab the goggles and see what happens. So mage hand goes in, grabs them, and immediately the statue screams at him, "Halt!" And basically it just tells him that he needs to put the goggles down right now or he's gonna have problems. So boop, drops the goggles. After spending some time, they decide they're going to leave everything in for now until they can try and figure out a way to get rid of the statues. They head into room 8 over here, which is just like a storage closet. They're looking about things. They found a few different things. I think there's a Dungeoneer's pack and some various odds and ends. But eventually Jimmy touches a chest that attacks. So they have a mimic battle here, back and forth a little bit. Nobody took too much damage. Jimmy got stuck to the mimic at one point, and then they were able to get rid of it, kill it. No big deal. So then they spent some time inspecting the mimic, this is weird, what is this thing? Before eventually moving back into the Relic Room. Here they come up with a plan. They decide that they are going to open the door. They're going to use Jimmy's mage hand to grab the goggles, and they're going to run out the door. Close the door, cast some spells, and hopefully they can get out. Mage Hand grabs the goggles, they run out the door, and at this point, they have to make their checks, their wisdom saves, or find themselves at the beginning again. Iris makes it no problem the first time. However, Jimmy and Dmitri, back at the beginning. They get back, they hear the statue come alive. Same warning as before. Mage Hand starts coming towards the door. They decide, all right, we got to book it out. Roll again. Dmitri fails again. So Dmitri, boom, back at the door. At this point, the door, I think, had been slammed shut already. So Dmitri's back at the door, back against the door, and he hears knocking at the door, like banging, trying to get out. As they had cast, I can't remember what spell it was. Maybe it's Control Water or something. They had frozen the door shut. I can't remember what spells they used. But they had frozen the door shut. So they just hear smashing on the other side of the door. Then they see like a fist, the stone fist, come punching through the door. As Dmitri makes one more check to come through and finally saves. At this point, Iris casts Spike Growth on the other side of the door. Jimmy casts Entangle, and they hope like crazy that it's going to hold the statue back long enough for them to go where they need to go. So the party heads up towards the stairs, and they send the Mage Hand out the door with the goggles. Eventually, the statue makes its way through the Entangle spell and through the hallway. It takes a second, and it comes out, and it follows the Mage Hand outside with the goggles. So they're like, okay, he's not after us, he's just after the item to return it. So they head up the stairs, and they come over here. They see, obviously, some bloodstains and a body on the end of this, and they look out the window, and they can see Jimmy has raised Mage Hand so that it is 30 feet away and at the same elevation as the party on the second floor. And they can see outside that the stone golem and the stone statue is just standing underneath, staring at the goggles. So they're like, okay, I'm just going to Mage Hand kind of follow us backwards and forwards as we're going, keeping that 30-foot distance. The first thing they do is head into this room over here, which is where the Dybbuk is. So it's dark, really dark in here. They can see, like, it's just a mess. There's a urn on the floor. There's notes on this table over here. And then I have them all make a perception check. And they see, crawling on the wall, this body of what they assume to be Ereldra's father. Then they have to make a save or be scared, and Dmitri fails and is scared, so can no longer get closer, which is a problem for Dmitri because Dmitri is a melee fighter. At that point, we roll initiative, and it took a couple of rounds before my party was like, all right, we actually need to fight this guy. So they thought he had just been possessed, and that there was some hope of exorcising the demon that had possessed him. So they're looking through notes, they're talking to it. Jimmy's trying to talk to it in Abyssal, back and forth. I kept trying to give hints that, like, there's no chance, and eventually it just starts attacking them. And they're like, all right, we've exhausted everything. Jimmy even tried to put the urn back together to try and see if that would do something, holding their actions, all my party. And eventually they're like, all right, well, we don't have any other choice. Let's just attack this thing. Battle ensues, and eventually we see a body come from this direction, come try and attack the party. We see another body start coming up the stairs. Jimmy has an ability where as a bonus action he can have a target make a save or be pushed back a few feet. So that happened many times where this failed its save, this little guard zombie fall down the stairs, come back up, fall down the stairs. And we had people coming in and out, and I cannot stress how much more fun it was to have the action-oriented monster here. So much more fun. My party enjoyed it, I really enjoyed it, and it was just something different, and it made it feel more alive and more fun. And like, their choices mattered because they had seen bodies all throughout the house, and then these bodies had reanimated and started attacking them. Eventually, I mean, this battle lasted a good long while before eventually they took care of the Dybbuk. They searched the area, they took care of the other entities that had arisen and started fighting, and then they searched out the rest of the area. They found the bathroom, they found some notes and things in the master bedroom, they looked through the footlocker, got the goodies that were there. So while all this is going on, Jimmy manages to maintain the concentration on his Mage Hand, and they head on out. After picking up Question, they head back to the Ready Room, where they're now about to report to Ereldra what they have happened. But it was a really fun time. I really enjoyed this. 2 thumbs up for Cat Valkyrie on Reddit, who came up with this. I really enjoyed it. My players really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend inserting this into Chapter 3 for you and your party. That's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it, and we'll catch you in the next one.